everyone. My name is Carrie. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is July 30th, 2020, and it's a hot one. We've been having some pretty hot weather. Today is going to be about 95. It's been mid 90s, a couple of days in the hundreds, and it's hot. So I thought I'd try and get an episode recorded early before it gets too hot up here, because it's been about 80 in here when it gets hot in the afternoon. I apologize if the fan noise is too loud or anything, but I need to have some air blowing in here because it gets stuffy feeling when it's hot like this. So hope your summer's going well. Mine's, it's kind of boring, I hate to say, but, can't go anywhere. So my experiences are pretty limited right now. I did get notification a couple of days ago that school is going to be 100% online, at least for the first semester, which ends the beginning of November. So at that point, they will reevaluate what the COVID numbers look like, but there won't be students in the classroom. And I'm glad about that, because I didn't really want to go back to school with a bunch of students. So I don't know what that means for my job. I mean, I still have a job. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, which school, whatever. But I'm just glad that they finally made the decision to not have schools in session, just because I didn't feel like it was really quite safe yet. Oregon's pretty low in numbers compared to the rest of the country, but I think overall our population is lower too. We're a smaller state, so it's all relative, I think. So anyway, it made me feel better to at least have a definitive answer, because it's been so wishy-washy with, like, we might do this, we might do that. It could look like this, it could look like that. And so now I at least know that there won't be students, and we'll figure out what we got to do from there. So I've got about another month before I go back to school. We don't go back now until after Labor Day, which is like September 7th, I think. So we'll go back then and see what happens. But in the meantime, how are you guys all doing? I hope everybody's still healthy and staying safe and everything. I have been pretty busy working on some older projects. So I'm going to jump right in and start talking about that. They're quilting projects mostly that I've been working on, and so that feels good to get those going. The quilt on the wall is one of my most recent finishes. I had shown on Instagram, as I've talked about before. I show a lot of this stuff on Instagram, so I apologize if this is a repeat for you guys, but I had finished a quilt, and I was like, okay, what am I going to work on next? I really need to make a decision on some of these languishing projects. And in quilting, it's called a UFO, which is an unfinished object, similar to what a whip is in knitting and crocheting, which is a work in progress. Same thing. So this was a UFO that has been sitting there, I'm thinking, close to 10 years. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I had pulled it out. I'm like, okay, I need to make a decision. I'm either keeping this and finishing it, or I'm not interested in it anymore and passing it on. I got to make a decision. I can't just have it sitting there, moving it around every time I reorganize and all that stuff. So I pulled it out, and I had already, it was started out as a checkerboard. So 5-inch squares, alternating black with a colored square in different colors. And I had, I'd say, about a third of it put together, and the rest of it was already in rows. I just needed to add the rows to the quilt. So I thought, why did I stop? I'm so close to being done. What the heck? Why did I stop this? I'm just going to finish this, and I'll just do a, quick quilting on it, and we'll be good. So I felt pretty good about myself. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to just knock this sucker out. And like, I don't know why I stopped this so many years ago. And then as I was sewing it and putting all the rest of the rows together to make it into the quilt, I just kept feeling like, I remember I was going to cut this up or something. There was something else I was going to do to this. And what was it? I'm just stitching along. And then all of a sudden it all came back to me. Oh, that's right. I was going to cut it up and with a ruler that was new at the time, and I think now it's 2009. So that shows you how many years ago. I guess that was 11 years ago. And so to use this ruler to cut it, make the quilt, cut it back up, and re-sew it together to get these tessellating pinwheels. And by alternating a colored square with black, you get more, you can see the tessellation a little bit better. So let me just take this out of the package. So the ruler I used is called, it's a Twister, and there's 2 different sizes. And I had made a bigger version of this that uses 10-inch squares. So you can buy pre-cut fabric in what they call a layer cake, which is a 10-inch square. Or you can do charm packs, which are 5-inch squares. And so I had done one with the 10-inch squares, and I did it and gave it to a friend that was having surgery. I'm like, you need to lay under a quilt while you're recovering. And that was really fun. And it's like, okay, that's great. And then they came out with a smaller version of the ruler that uses the 5-inch squares. And I thought, oh, I really want to try that. I think that just looks really cool. See, that's all came back to me after I had started sewing it together. So the ruler I used is a little Twister, and basically you take squares, however you do your squares, and you use this ruler. I might show it better like that. And you line this black line on the seams. So you figure you have a square like this, and I'll put some pictures in because I had posted pictures of how I cut it up. So you cut that all up, keeping it straight of where everything is. So you got to really literally just cut a square, put it on the design wall, cut the next one, put it next to that. So you keep all your colors together, because it takes 4 of these little squares to make your pinwheel go together, and you don't want to mix up the colors. So I thought, oh, I forgot I was going to do that. And I thought, well, I don't have to. I can just continue to sew these square, make this just be a checkerboard quilt. But the thing that got me started to thinking, like, why would I make such a boring quilt? That just wasn't, that's just not my aesthetic. I generally do something that's a little more challenging or feels a little more creative. And so I thought, you know what, that's just cheating. You intended, and I figured out how big to make it, because when you cut it up, you lose about 1/3. And I thought, so how big do I need to make this quilt so that when I cut it down and I have 1/3 of it, that it's a usable size? Like, I just wanted like a little lap quilt. And so I had done all that, figured out how big I needed to make it and how many squares that was, and blah, blah, blah. I thought, just finish it. And like Jim says, he goes, well, you've got time. I'm like, you're right. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to finish it. So it took a while, and I would just slowly cut it apart, and I would work on it for, a couple of hours and get some squares done, and, just continued to just plug away at it until I got it finished. And I was so glad that I took the time to actually finish it the way I had intended for it to be finished, because I love the result. And I think I wouldn't have used the quilt if it was just a checkerboard, because it would have just felt boring to me. So I got it done, and it's quilted. I thought, okay, I'm going to just get this right on the long arm, and I'm going to quilt it. And so I used a pantograph. I've talked about how pantographs work previously. I think it's episode 5, which if you wanted to go back, and I showed in that episode how that all works with the long arm. So I don't have a computerized system. I don't want a computerized system. I like the creativity and the originality of it being from my hands and not just a computer doing it. To me, that, I don't know, it's not my thing. It's the thing for some people. It's not my thing. So I hand guided, anyway, did the pantograph on it. And so it's ready to put a binding on. So I haven't done that yet because it's been hot up here. And so, I've got to use the iron, and I'm trying not to use the iron and heat the room up any more than it already is. So, and I'm not going to have it on my lap to sew on the binding right now anyway, because it's just too warm. But I'll get it on there, and then as the weather cools off in the fall, I'll probably finish it off. Or if by then the COVID situation seems a little more under control, I might have my friend do it, who's always looking to do bindings for me. So it is done, and yeah, I'm happy with it. Another quilt that I talked about, I think last time, I think it was on the long arm actually when I recorded last time, was the Big Dahlia. It's the Dream Big or Big Dream. I couldn't get it right. I kept saying it wrong on the podcast, but I finished it. I showed it on Instagram, but I will show you here, and it's all done. And so I really wanted to do feathers. I just knew that I just wanted feathers in each of the petals of this dahlia. And then when I got to this outer part where you're really, the petal shapes are faded out, it's really more of a background, I thought I'm going to have that be more like the leaves of this flower. And so in that part, I did this kind of design, this like squared off feather in each of those petals, surrounded by something different. Like I did a border around each petal to separate it from each other, you know, so every petal has some sort of a quarter-inch line or multiple lines or something like that. And then just did some straight-ish lines. I just did it very organically on the real background stuff that doesn't look like anything. So it's done. I am so happy with it. I'm so glad I got it done. And I'll see if I can put pictures in to show you. And then it was time to bind it. Luckily, I had this kind of a wine colored solid that I thought went really well. But then I had this idea to do a piping. And so I did a piping in a bluish purple color to try and pull the blue from the center out and just tie it all together. And I think it looks pretty dang cool. So the way I did the piping is, and once again, use that backing. I've gotten a lot of use out of that fabric. The piping I did using a technique and a ruler and everything on, it's called a piping hot binding. And what that does is you use a cord, you wrap a cord, and this is from Susan Cleveland. Found out about her on Simply Quilts. I talked about that last time, how I learned everything on Simply Quilts. So this is the kind of cording she suggests. It's a nylon cording. It's pretty thin. And there's the book again. So the technique that she uses is you take the cording, you wrap it with fabric. So this is actually left over from the quilt. And then there's this ruler that goes with the book. And it's got these grooves in it. Like these are etched out, kind of grooved out. And the idea is you wrap the fabric around the cording, and then you trim it depending on how deep you want your piping to be. And the cord, when you trim it, fits right in that groove. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if that's actually showing up, but that helps you trim it. You attach it to the quilt, you just put the binding on and all that, and that gives, it's got a little bit of substance to it because of that cording that's in there. It's not just a fold of fabric. And I think it adds a really nice accent to quilts. I've done it before on a couple of other quilts. I don't do it on quilts that are going to be used like on your lap or anything, because it's a labor intensive process, but I think the results are just really cool. So I think that added really nice touch to this finished piece. And here it is. And I love it. So once I got done with the pinwheel quilt, I had the whole cloth one, the Dahlia one done, made the pinwheel quilt. And then I'm like, all right, this is a good time. I'm going to try and go with this momentum of getting things done that I've had for a while. So in the same little basket that I had the stuff for this quilt, I had another one that I started quite a while ago. And I have put a lot of work into it so far, but it's got a lot more work to go because it's hand pieced. So it's done with what's called English paper piecing. And English paper piecing is you fold fabric around paper, around a shape, usually a hexagon, but it can be different shapes, but traditionally it's a hexagon. And then you hand sew the pieces together, because a hexagon shape, you can't just sew those together on a machine because there's not a straight line to sew things together. This is a quilt that I don't, it's been a long time, probably around the same time as that one, but look at that. So this is a twist on the Grandmother's Flower Garden. So Grandmother's Flower Garden is a very traditional pattern that uses the hexagons and it makes the flowers, but it's generally flat. And this designer, who is, I will look it up because this is all I have now. She took that traditional Grandma's Flower Garden and made it look like a ball. So I was super intrigued by that when I first found out about it. I'm like, I have to make that. And so I got going on it, and I've done quite a bit. So I had purchased a grab bag type of thing from Cherrywood Fabrics, and Cherrywood Fabrics does hand dyed bulk. I mean, like it's they do yardages of it, but it's all like hand dyed. And their fabrics look like suede, sort of, because of the base fabric that they use and the way that they dye it and stuff like that. And I love their fabrics, but it's expensive because anything hand dyed, you know, you are paying for the work of somebody making it. So I thought, oh, let me just get this grab bag. I may have gotten a couple, I don't remember now. And I'll just, you know, you're going to get like pieces, and I can use those for applique. So I had those. This pattern comes out and I'm like, that would be perfect to use with this Cherrywood fabric. You get your shape, and these are all hexagons, but they're misshapen because it's going to give that illusion that it's round. So like, here's a piece. This is the template. So I printed on freezer paper, and I've talked about freezer paper before. I don't know that it's available in the UK or elsewhere, but in the United States, it's just in your grocery store, and it's paper, like butcher paper, and one side's just the paper, the other side's like a waxed coating on it to keep like foods from bleeding through or whatever. But if you iron that to fabric, it will stick and it gives it stability. So I printed out my pattern pieces on freezer paper and then stuck the freezer paper to the fabric to help hold it. And then you do, let me take my sticker off. Then you do a basting. I don't know if you can see. There's basting stitches to hold it on. So you fold the edges over, you baste them, and that holds it to the fabric. And then you take those pieces and you hand sew the little edge together and you work your way through. I did that, and I have baggies of pieces for the whole quilt. I've got all the pieces already stuck to fabric, basted on. That part's all good to go. And that was like a lot of work. And then I started putting it together, and that was going along great. And then I was just like getting kind of tired of doing it. It was bothering my hands because it's just this little hand sewing. And, you know, shiny object, something else came along and I stopped. But I pulled it out because I'm like, okay, same thing. Do I still enjoy this? Is this still something that I like? Or has my taste changed so much that I'm not going to finish it? And I pull it out and I'm like, I still really like it. I still think it would make a really cool quilt. So I got it back out, and I'm going to slowly work on it. So this is what I've gotten done so far. Quite a bit. I mean, I put a lot of work into this so far. So you can see how the hexagons look. All that white basting stitch will be pulled out and the paper will be pulled off when it's done. Right now it's kind of holding everything together to keep it from stretching out. So traditionally you would have a flower like that that butts up to another flower and it's all flat. But because this is made to look rounded, the shapes get real weird and real small. So what you do is, here's the back side of it, is you hand piece a row, then you attach the row to the quilt. So this row is partially going, I've gotten it that far, and I will attach it like that, and then I'll do the next row, and I've got the next row pieced. I just need to then add it, and you just keep going until it's done. So this is the center, and I'll go this way till it's done, and then you start this side until it's done. You're not supposed to be able to see your stitches, and I think I did a pretty good job. The tiny stitches that actually hold the seam together, you can't really see. So they're teeny tiny stitches. I'm using an extremely fine thread. It's a 60 weight thread, which is just very, 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 very thin. And that's what I'm using to piece it together, because then that hides in the seams. And so I thought, you know, sometimes I need a break on my hands from knitting, or I'm just like kind of bored with what I'm doing, that I think that's what I'm going to pick up and just slowly work on it till I get it done. That's my plan. I hope I don't lose steam on it again because, you know, something new comes along. I'm trying really, really hard not to start anything new until I finish up some of these things, whether it's knitting or quilting or crochet, whatever. Finishing some stuff, because for me a lot of it's about the excitement of learning the new technique, or just the whole starting of something new, and then you get to the boring part and you're like, this is kind of boring, I want something new again. And so then, you know, somebody comes out with a new pattern or a new technique, you're like, I have to try that. So I'm hoping that I can stick with it and just finish it, because I think it'll be really cool. So once I get all that hexagon and I make a ball, then that whole piece is then appliqued to a background. Not really sure what I'm gonna do for background, because this fabric, this is the cherry wood fabric that's the hand dyed, and then this is a commercial fabric. So this is the background of it. So I don't know if I'm going to try and stick with like that kind of color, or put it on maybe a darker background of some sort. I'm going to wait and see when it gets done enough to be worried about that. And then figure it out at that point. So I did get another row done. So here's my row, and I have stickers to try and, you know, that was just helping me keep everything straight. And so that row will be the next one that gets attached, and then I'll make another row and another row, and I just keep on going till you get to the end. So that, I'm excited about it because I do really like this quilt a lot, and I was able to sew on it quite a bit the last couple of days without it bothering my hands too much. I think the key is to just do it little bits at a time, and then change what I'm doing to just give my hands a break because they get really sore. While I was working on some of these quilt things, I thought I don't think I ever shared what I use for starch. Now I use a starch alternative. I like to use Mary Ellen's, which is a starch alternative, but starch helps to release wrinkles that are in the fabric when you first get started, and gives it some stability because you are cutting it. And like for that pinwheel quilt, you know, I started with squares, but because you're cutting it kind of askewed, you have a lot of bias edges, and bias edges are the diagonal you get when you cut diagonally somehow on the fabric, and it's super stretchy that way. So starch helps to kind of hold that stuff together. But a friend of mine told me about this, and I just use my Mary Ellen's, and this is a hair mister thing. It comes out as a mist, and I don't use nearly as much starch, and I don't get those little spitty things that come off of the squirt bottle. So usually you have a little spray bottle, and it's like kind of sprays and spits and all that kind of stuff, and this just puts out a nice fine mist, and I don't use as much. And I just got this on Amazon. It's just a hair product sprayer, I don't know, hairspray sprayer or something, and then you just fill it with what you want. So that was my little tip of the day. So those are all my sewing and quilting things. I did work on another project that I won't show today. I think it's going to be a prize for an upcoming knit along that I'm going to help participate in. But we got to finalize the details. I'm working with some other podcasters and we'll do a little knit along. So that's all my sewing. I did do a little bit of spinning, not a ton, but I did get new fiber, like a lot. So I think the last time I recorded, I had this skein, which is now finished. It was on my wheel. It was on my bobbin. Isn't that pretty? This is 100% superwash merino dyed by Wound Up Fiber Arts. There was no color. This was kind of a seconds for her. And she offered, I got a couple of them at that point because they were on sale. And I love a sale. And they also, the reason why they were like that is because she's like, I don't think the color really set and blah, blah, blah. So I did get some bleeding. I went ahead and soaked it with some vinegar and, you know, it's all good to go. But it turned out so pretty. So pretty. It's a heavy fingering, I think. I think that's pretty close to what I'm getting with this superwash merino is like a heavier fingering. But I had this idea. I think it would be fun to make a sweater. And then the Cozy Up Knits just released a newer pattern called the Hug Cardigan. And it uses DK to worsted, but a lot of people are using double strands of fingering. And I thought that's speaking to me because I have a lot of like single skeins of fingering weight that coordinate with each other, but don't necessarily match each other. But I think it would be kind of neat to make some sort of a striped cardigan. And then I thought, what if I did it with my hand spun? I don't know, and just did a scrappy looking sweater and use hand spun. So I really like, I think the superwash merino, whether it's a blend with something else or 100%, is my favorite. I love the feel of it. I love the way the dye takes the fiber takes the dye. And the colors are vibrant and it speaks to me. It's good. So I am currently working on, I showed last time the braid of yarn fiber that Leslie gave me for my birthday. And it was like bright pink and orange and stuff like that. And I've got one bobbin spun. I'm working on the other bobbin. I just got started on it. I haven't been spinning quite as much because I've been quilting and like, you know, I've only got so much time in the day and I don't like to be up here later in the afternoon because it's just too warm. But I did get new fiber. So a couple of dyers, you know, they have such pretty colors and I bought some and then I got a couple from the subscriptions that I'm subscribed to. So let me show you those. Okay, so the first couple that I'm going to show you, this is from Slothy Creations. This is superwash merino. This is called Rosetta, and I just loved this gray with kind of a peachy rose color. I'm really excited to see what that looks like. This is also from Slothy Creations, and this is Targhee Bamboo and Silk, and it's in the Hearts and Flowers colorway. So this is really pretty spun up. She had it spun and showed it on Instagram, and it was really pretty soft pinks and stuff. And I thought, oh, that's neat. And I haven't used bamboo. So I thought the mix of bamboo could be kind of interesting to see what that does. So those are both from Slothy Creations. Direful Yarns had a series or colorways based on Ghostbuster. So this is, I collect molds, spores, and fungus. And this is on a 80/20 superwash merino nylon. And I just loved these colors. I'm excited to start this one as well. Oh, now this is, I don't know how they put these in braids, but they do it so nicely, and I don't know how to do that. I mess it up. Anyway, so you've got some greens, aqua, some tan, gray, I think this will be really pretty too. So that's that one. I subscribed to Into the World. Last time I showed you that I got some Romney that was really rustic. And thank you for those of you that suggested spinning it and plying that fiber, because I was talking about how rustic it was and it was pretty rough. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And then you suggested spinning it, plying it with a softer fiber. And I hadn't thought about that because I'm still pretty new. I don't know what fiber I would use, but they say that kind of helps soften it. So I'm going to hang on to it for now. I'm still not really sure what I'm going to do with it, but I do appreciate that you had those suggestions. So this next one was my Into the World. So that I got Romney last time. This time I got Falkland. And it's interesting because this colorway is similar to another one that I got as a subscription from a different dyer. So this doesn't come in a braid. Like I said, I don't know how to make a braid either, but beautiful colors. Beautiful. I mean, that purple. Oh, this is like a little sunset right there. And then you've got, you know, just such a variety of colors. So this is how fiber comes and how they dye it. And then most dyers will braid it somehow, and I just do a really crappy job of it. So I just sort of left it alone. But so it just kind of repeats on those colors. So Falkland, I've done Falkland before, and it is a little more, obviously anything's going to be feeling more rustic than superwash merino, but I think this is, oh God, look at that. Seriously. So that is Into the World. And the color is just pretentious enough. So, yeah, that would be really cool. Falkland's not, it's you know, it's more rustic than superwash merino, but it's not, it doesn't feel rough and scratchy. Okay, I'm not going to bother with that. Then I did another subscription. Oh, so Into the World, I get one more, and then I canceled the subscription because I was like, I'm getting fiber, and with that one, you don't know what fiber you're going to get or what color. And I thought, okay, that'll be great because then I'll get stuff that I, you know, to try. And I'm finding as I'm spinning more, I'm kind of finding what I like more. So then Nest Fiber, this is Prism, had a club where you get superwash merino, and I thought, okay, well that's good because I know I like the superwash merino. So it's interesting because I did braid this. I don't think I did too bad. Whoop! But look at how similar these colors are, and they came from two different dyers for a club for July. I just thought that was really interesting how similar these colors were. So this is superwash merino, and this is the Falkland from Into the World. So right? Wouldn't that be cool in a sweater, stripe in a sweater with some of those colors? Because they coordinate enough that I think it would be a fun sweater. Whew. And I'm getting fiber all over. You know how good that does for me. So that's my spinning for right now. I've got plenty of fiber. I know I've said that before, and I wasn't going to buy any more, and I've really held back on buying even more because they just keep coming out with some really pretty colors. But for right now, I need to spin what I have because I have plenty to keep me busy. If I all of a sudden just was like, you're cut off, you can't have any more, I've got plenty to keep me busy for a while. But I'm really considering doing maybe I'll do that hug cardigan. I don't know. I don't know how many skeins I need, but anyway. So I'm excited about that. So let's go into some knitting. I did, now last time I talked to you, I told you how I was trying to do a sock on my flat bed knitting machine. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try it again. And I thought, this time, let me just do a shorty sock. So I'm not investing so much yarn and time into making like the leg and everything, because really it's about how it fits on the foot. And so I followed the jelly roll sock pattern, It's to see how far, because I've never made a pair of shorty socks, and it says to knit for like 1.5 inches before you start the heel. And I thought, okay, that gives me that measurement. And I did it with a little bit fewer stitches than I originally had tried, because I felt like that was too tight. And it didn't work. It was an experiment. Didn't fully work. For one, the 1.5 inches before the heel is not enough. It barely comes around my heel, and I want it to go up a little bit more. And so I tried to figure how many rows, like I did so many rows from the heel to the toe, and that fits. And then I thought, okay, then I have to do the top of the foot, because you do your short rows and then you start doing the top of the foot and seam it up the sides. But somehow I didn't have enough stitches, and it doesn't go all the way up on my foot. It needs that much more. So somehow the row count, I got to figure something different. The size width-wise works, so that felt comfortable. I think my seaming did better. My seam is actually not very thick, and I think it would pass, especially if it's just going to be in my shoe. So that went better. I got to figure out how to make the top part long enough to match the back, because I thought I did, and I obviously didn't. So it was another fail. If I did another shorty sock, I need more than 1.5 inches, because that doesn't quite go. I mean, it's like I need it to be a little higher, because otherwise if I wore it in a shoe, it would just pull the heel down. There's not enough to hold on to my foot. But I tried it. I put my knitting machine away, because I thought, okay, I need to concentrate on some of these projects that I've had languishing, whether it's quilting or knitting or whatever. I need to put my energy there. So I'll revisit it. I took notes. I'll revisit it. And maybe try it again another time when I need something to do. Like, I got plenty. I kind of finished my tank that I was making. So I am making the Radiance tank by Rebecca McKenzie. And I'm doing it out of a cotton linen bamboo blend of yarn that I got from Hobby Yarns, and according to the pattern, I should have had like just enough. I was almost considering buying one more skein, because I wasn't sure if I was going to have just enough. And I got done with it. I still have to do like a garter around the neck and the armholes, so there is still some to do, but I have like 1.5 skeins left. This is a whole skein, and I still have like 1/2 skein. So the 1/2 skein will probably do the armholes and everything, and I thought, this doesn't seem right. It's a little snug. It's more fitted, and I won't wear it if it's fitted like that, but it's cute. It still feels a little short. I haven't blocked it yet, so I thought I'm going to get it done to this point. I seamed the shoulders so that I can at least put it on. And I thought, let me see if blocking loosens it up. I don't know, because I've never knit with a linen cotton bamboo blend before. But the pattern's cute. The construction, there's a lot of ends because of the construction. So I got a lot of ends to weave in yet, but like I said, I want to block it out and see if I can get it to work. If it doesn't, I'm done with it. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to rip it apart and do it again. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the construction part at the top. There was too much, like, put this on waste yarn and cut your yarn and start your yarn and waste. It was like, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really into it, but it's cute. But if it's not going to fit, then I'm done. So we'll see. I didn't block it yet because I didn't want it to be wet. I wanted to show you guys on here. I got a little bit done. Let me move my fiber. Fiber everywhere. Got a little bit done on my Alaska sweater. So there it is. Not a ton. I'm almost to the point of splitting for the seams. So I haven't even gotten that far yet. I didn't put a marker in when I last showed you because I forgot. But where's my heart? You can see my heart a little better. So I am doing helix knitting. There's my heart right there. This is Barnyard Knits DK weight. I don't know what her base is called, but it's her DK weight. And the color is Love Forever. It was her February color of the month. And it's a really good color. So I'm getting close. I think I have, I don't know, maybe 10 more rows or something like that. And then I'll start splitting for the sleeves. And then the sweater is a cropped sweater. And I'm not going to make it cropped because that won't look good on me. So I have to figure out kind of like how deep that trees are, and then so I know when to start them, but make my in between from the armpit to the top of the trees a little bit longer. And my concern with this is, see how the trees are? So it's top down. So when you come to here, you've got like 12 stitches in between the tops of the trees. And it does get less as you move down. So what I thought that's too far. That's a really long float. And I know catch the floats and all that stuff, but I feel like that gives it potential for being too tight. So I thought I might like wind up some balls of my contrast color, and the contrast color is going to be the Knit Pick Swish in this Bordeaux color. I thought of like winding up some balls and then doing those trees, at least the first half of the trees, as an intarsia, where each tree has its own little ball of yarn. It sounds like a lot of yarn management, but I think in the end, then I won't have floats that far. My floats will start as I get down into the trees and like down in here where you don't have as far to go. And then pretty soon you're just in the dark color. So I'm thinking that'll work. If anybody has an opinion on that, I would love to hear it, because I've never done intarsia. And my concern with the sweater from the get-go was having color work around the waist area, because that's where you want it to be stretchier. And I know I have done color work before, and I do a pretty good job of keeping things loose, but if it's too loose, then I feel like it would look sloppy and not, yeah. Anyway, let me know if you had any experience doing intarsia or trying something like that, and if it's worked, if it's not, if you've made that sweater before. There was somebody that I think I saw on Instagram or something that made the hat. So there's an Alaska hat, same motif of the trees. And I wondered how they managed that long span at the beginning of those trees, but I never heard back from them. So, like I said, upcoming soon-ish, I'm going to join forces with some other people, and we're going to do a little knit along. My only source for like managing that is through Ravelry, and I'm really disappointed in Ravelry right now because of the whole web design thing that is affecting people. It doesn't affect me personally, but it is affecting some people, and Ravelry's response is not acceptable to me, and I'm a little pissed off about it, but I don't know where else to go. I don't know where else I can have, that you get patterns and store your library. I mean, it's a great resource. It is a great design of the website to be able to have all this stuff for free, but I don't like how they're managing things. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. So if anything else is coming up, and if anybody knows of another place where we can kind of congregate, I would love to know. Meanwhile, I am still using Ravelry just because I don't have another option. So I hope it's not affecting you, because I think that really sucks, and that would be really frustrating to feel like they're not listening to you too. I think that really sucks. So that is it for me for today. I know it's not super long. That's okay, because some of these longer podcasts I can't sit down and watch them for the whole way through. So hopefully this is easier to watch when it's shorter like this. So hopefully your summer's going okay, and you guys are all still staying safe and healthy, and finding stuff to do to keep yourself from going a little nutso. So I hope to be back. I'm going to try and go back to being a little more frequent. It just depends on what I get done. So during the summer, it's a little better because I'm not at work. I'm getting a little bit more done. So that's helpful. But be well, be kind, be respectful. I love you all, and I will see you next time.